Most big repairs start as small problems. Catch them early and save thousands. Welcome to the Garage Authority Podcast, powered by A1. I'm your host, Jonithan Phillips, and today I have a very special guest, not only because he's my boss, but he's also, before he's my boss, he's my friend. Now, the one and only Mr. Matt Fink. How's it going, brother?
It's great. Glad to be here.
Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy, busy day, making sure that I'm doing my job correctly all the time. But the reason that I think it's so cool that I get to have you on is, so you were the last class before I became a trainer, or as I was starting to become a trainer. So we didn't get to really interact. But I watched you. You were one of the first ones in and out of the old training bay all the way through. I watched you go out to the field. Customer satisfaction and reviews are through the roof. And then I distinctly remember you one day going into Luke's office, who at that time was, high in the company. And I remember you said, "I'm committed to this company. This is where I want to be. I want to grow." Mm-hmm. I distinctly, you said it loud enough I could hear it through the walls. he was fire about it. And I'm just like, all right, this is not young buck because we're the same age, but this newer guy, he's about it. He's got it. And then I watched you not only go from an amazing service tech, but also like a door confidant for any clients that had any questions. And then you were so good at that you got to overlook all the guys. And then from that, you go even further, and now you're the director of growth. Yep. So as far as growth in the company itself, I don't think anyone matches you in any facet, and that's been proven with your leadership and how much you've adopted in just being able to train people. So I think out of the company, I hate to toot my own horn, besides Travis Rackley, who taught me, this is on equal par with me as far as being able to train people as far as versatile positions. So that's why I wanted to bring you on today, because it's been a real pleasure to watch your growth, and I couldn't imagine anyone working as close as we get to. So thank you so much.
Thank you, John. That was incredible, undeserved, but I appreciate it very much.
Proving my point exactly. Can't take a compliment to save his life. But no, the reason I wanted to have you on today is because you have literally looked at every single part and position and facet. And I know that you're one of the foremost experts on from should we repair this to should we replace this. And you also know the dangers because with how many client interactions that you've had to oversee the good and the bad, that's what makes you an expert as far as should I go this way or should I go that way? Because you could probably talk all day about, well, if we go this way, there's this reality that can happen, this reality.
Absolutely.
I just feel like you have a full encompass of that. But the whole reason we're coming on today is springs, which are kind of the silent danger of your home.
Yeah.
Right? So taking it down to the basics, how do springs work in balancing the weight of a garage door when you explain it to clients?
Yeah, absolutely. So, springs just kind of kick it off,
right.
As you know. They are incredibly important, an absolute necessity, essential, right, to any garage door system. And before I got into the industry several years ago, I didn't know springs even existed. So I would assume a lot of people listening to this or watching this probably don't know they exist either. But the reality is, your garage door, whatever door size or type you have, it's heavy. It's got some weight. And your little motor hanging in your ceiling was never designed to lift the entire weight of that door. And that's really what your springs do, right? So they're the muscle behind the door. Absolutely, yeah. So that's what's going to carry that weight and make sure that door is running smoothly and safely and not come off track and not close too hard or open too fast. They are absolutely 100% essential and important to the garage door system. With that said, you can put springs on a door that are way too big or robust or powerful. And the issue there is the door wants to shoot up through your ceiling and go through your roof. Yeah. While that might be funny, it's obviously very dangerous too.
It's very funny to think about. In reality, when you actually run into it, it's a very, very scary and traumatic thing.
100% agree, yes. And then the opposite is also true, where if you get springs that are maybe too weak or not strong enough or too thin or small or what have you, that motor is going to be working way too hard and the door is just going to really struggle opening, which has its own set of issues with that as well. So really what it comes down to is having the right springs for the right door size, door weight. There's other things that go into that as well, but when all that comes together and is done correctly, that door is going to go up very smooth. It's going to go down very smooth. It's going to be very safe. And you're really going to avoid significant and very costly issues in the future.
Yes. Now, whenever it comes to springs, I mean, there's a lot of variables. You have a Wayne Dalton Torque Master. So if you at home go out to your garage, if you just see a silver pipe going across your garage door and it doesn't look like you can see a spring, that means you have a Wayne Dalton Torque Master. You have, which does work like a torsion spring. And then we have torsion springs, which are the ones that hang above the door. And then you have extension springs, which can either go along the tops of the tracks, or sometimes in Europe behind the vertical tracks, just using pulleys. Can you explain to people how torsion and extension springs and kind of how they work and the difference?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say maybe 20 years ago or so, a vast majority of builders and homes started to move away from extension springs and into a more traditional torsion system, which is what I would say like a vast majority of people have now. If you go like out into the Midwest, some of these older homes that were built, in the 50s or 60s, a lot of those might still have extension springs, but they're few and far between nowadays, I would say. But at A1, we definitely prefer and recommend a traditional torsion system just because it is safer, it lasts longer, and you just don't have to deal with the sort of maintenance and upkeep and issues that extension springs will have. But the big difference is torsion springs are going to slide onto a tube, which is mounted above your garage door, and they are going to twist and create torsion from cables, which lifts your door. So if they do eventually break or wear out, they are stuck on that tube. They're not going to, fly off or cause any major issues, right? They're contained because they're bolted on to that tube. Whereas an extension spring, to your point, they are traditionally, stretched across your tracks, and they stretch and they pull. And anyone listening can probably imagine what happens when those break. They are not, they're not bolted onto a tube. They're stretching alongside a track. And so what happens is if they do break, there's a very, very strong chance they will fly through your ceiling, your wall, hit your car. It's like a cartoon. It's wild. It's just an absolute chaos. So that's why we prefer not to use those.
I've seen extension springs break so hard that they flew to the front of the garage and you watched the brick on the outside become loose and knock out bricks. And this is just hanging above your head when you go in a garage. Yeah. And I will admit that sometimes I can understand maybe a builder or like a headroom. Maybe we don't have enough space above a door to put a torsion system. I'm going to put this out there right now. If you can fit track in a garage, you can fit a torsion system. Yeah. With enough pulleys and enough brackets, if the track fits, a torsion system will fit. So don't let people tell you have to do extension springs because there's not enough headroom. If the track fits in there, we can fit torsion springs. Yeah,
totally agree. I mean, I would even go as far as to say we would prefer to build down the opening a couple inches to fit a torsion system in, than do an extension spring, just because it is so much safer to do a torsion system. And ultimately, that's why we're here to serve the client and make sure that they are safe and they have a system that they can rely on and it's not going to cause them issues in the future.
Right. Now, what are the most common causes for spring failure, in your opinion, if we're really just focusing on torsion springs right now?
Yeah, it's a great question. So like anything, I mean, the more you use it, the more it's going to wear out and get weaker and eventually have, problems. So imagine, you've got a paper clip and you take a paper clip, you start to bend that thing back and forth. Eventually, where the curve is, it's going to break. Yeah. And it's the exact same thing with the torsion system. So the most common issue is just use. I'm just using my door. It's going up, it's going down hundreds and hundreds or thousands of times. And eventually the metal gets weaker. And unfortunately, you don't replace them in time, they will snap and break.
Right. And I honestly don't think people realize how much they use their garage door. Anytime I go to a home, I'll ask the immediate person in front of me. And they say, once or twice. Okay. And then I'm kind of asking more about, who else uses this door? And then they're like, my spouse. my kids, my
Yep,
this.
yep.
I'm like, okay,
It
well,
starts to add up.
you have a family of 5, and we're all using it 1 to 2 times a day. You said twice. It's more like 5 times the amount that you think in your head.
100%.
So people are using it like the front door of their home. Now, what warning signs should a homeowner watch for that spring fatigue, or kind of early signs in your opinion?
Yeah. So, I mean, the big one is a lot of our, or people that I've talked to have said, well, it's not broken.
Right.
So I don't really need to fix it. And that's not necessarily the best way to think about it. Imagine you're driving down the highway and you have balding tires and you're starting to see the little metal wires peeking through the rubber, and you've got your wife and kids in the car. It's like, you probably don't want to wait until that tire blows out before you replace them. You probably want to get it done before that, just for like safety.
Yes.
And it's really the same thing with garage door springs. And some warning signs, I mean, there's a few. If your door starts to get like a lot louder when it goes up and down, it's like, man, it sounds like it's more rattly than normal, or like just the motor is struggling and whirring. Yeah, exactly. So sound is going to be a big one. And the reason for that is, as those springs wear out, they start to just lift less weight than when they were new. And so now everything is struggling and rattling around a little bit more, and that's why it gets a little bit louder. But if you feel like you're pretty confident, kind of a good DIYer type person, or good fixing things around the house, something you could do is make sure you shut the door first. Don't do this with the door open, but shut the garage door.
Please.
Yes,
Please.
shut the garage door. And then once the garage door is shut, you can pull the emergency release cord, and now you can lift the door just freely with your hands, right? And so lift up that door, and if it's heavy, if it weighs more than a couple of pounds, you know that those springs are wearing out, and these springs aren't lifting the weight like they should. Door's feeling pretty heavy. You should probably get these looked at.
That's 100%. And if you alluded to DIY.
Yeah.
And that's why I didn't know where we were going with that, because I definitely have my reservations about DIY, being I'm a professional, and you've heard my stories. Like, I think I know what I'm doing pretty well, and there's still just weird stuff happens that has put me in the hospital from springs.
Yeah.
So why are DIY spring repairs so dangerous?
Oh, man. Listen, anyone listening, please, just for your sake and your family's sake, do not touch these things unless you've gone to school for this, right? Like, you've spent hours and hours and hours researching and talking to professionals, and please do work around your house. I think it's great. I do a ton of stuff around my house, but this is not the same as, putting in a new light fixture or replacing a ceiling fan. Like, this could cause serious problems. And we really want to make sure everybody's safe and healthy and all that. So we've heard horror stories. You've been through some stuff. I mean, even as a professional, like you alluded to. So yes, just fair warning. Unless you really know what you're doing, do not touch these things at all. Call A1 instead. But DIY repairs, why are they so dangerous? So it's very difficult, unless you are a professional, to know what type of springs that you need to put on your door. So that's the first one. So let's say you do somehow get through taking off the old ones safely, putting the new ones on safely, winding them up properly, the whole, like, you're able to do 15 of those steps safely, which in and of itself is kind of a miracle. If you get that far and the springs aren't right, you're looking for trouble. Yeah. Again, if they're too strong, that door's going to be hot, shoot through the roof. And if they're too weak, then you could burn out your motor, door could come off track, so on and so forth. So, but even before then, those springs are under an insane amount of tension and pressure. And a lot of people don't realize that, there's a specific way to take off springs. And if you just start undoing bolts and undoing cables, those things could pop, they could spin, you get hit in the face, tear your wrist up. I mean, I've known multiple people who have lost fingers and gotten hit in the face, horrible cuts and gashes and stitches, and, and the cables on the side too. I mean, as you know, those are just unbelievable pressure on those things. And
it's just a metal scalpel going through the air.
100%. And so, you just need to expect, if you're going to start undoing bolts on a garage door, expect something to explode or rip off or pop or what have you.
Yes. I think people don't understand how much goes into it. And Also, there's a lot of resources out there where it's standing on the shoulders of giants, so it makes it seem simple. But when a technician is going to your house, the things that affect the type of spring that you're going to put on the door, you got to look at the type of drums that are on there. In some extreme cases, you need to look at the cable. I'm talking for some people that have crazy 1,000, 1,200-pound doors. You need to look at the height of the track that's going onto it, the height, the weight of the door, and then not to mention, it's not always a like for like, because as a professional, I've looked at garage doors and I'm like, oh, that one broke. I'm just going to put the same spring up there. You don't even know if that was the right spring.
100%. Yep.
So you can't tell me that I'm just going to put what was up there before. And then to what you said, you're going to put it up there and then it's too much or too less. So you wasted all this time. Best case scenario, you put yourself in danger.
Yeah.
But then it messes up the door so bad to where now instead of, X amount, we're spending 10 times that amount
100%
to get it done.
Yeah.
And I want to avoid that. I want to avoid fingers getting lost and people spending way more money than they were expecting to when, in all honesty, they were just trying to save some money.
Yeah.
And they ruined it
Yeah.
by the end of it. So
Yeah.
for not. Well,
I'll say this too, again, as like top priority is safety. Even when I was a technician, on certain spring setups, I would call another tech to come out and help me and give me another set of eyes or an extra set of hands just because, like, we have to be super careful here. This is broke or the door's hanging a little bit or whatever the situation is. But even the professionals need help sometimes. And we go to school for this stuff.
Yeah.
This is our life. So if that's not you, then I would just exercise extreme caution when it comes to spring repairs.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Now, with all of this, if people are listening to us and taking it to the degree that we know and believe and trust, how often should springs be inspected or replaced? I know that's kind of a loaded question with all your knowledge.
Yeah. I think ultimately it really just depends on the type of door system that you have. But let's just say for like your typical standard residential home, standard 2-car garage, steel door, you got 2 springs up there, 1 spring up there, you're looking at once a year. Have someone come out, do maintenance on it, do a tune-up, weigh your door, make sure it's balanced, lubricate everything at minimum once a year. Now, if you are using the door heavily, like you alluded to, this family of 5, where they're using the door 10, 20 times a day, maybe have someone come out every 6 months just to be safe. I also think, too, with maintenance, you're going to extend the life of the system.
Absolutely.
Which will save you a lot of money in the long run.
Yeah.
Now, if you have, let's say, like a wood overlay door. So it's, maybe 4 layers or this thing weighs 800 to 1,000 pounds.
More door, more problems.
Yeah, more problems. Yeah, that's funny. I would say absolutely every 6 months have someone come out and take a look.
Okay. We've gone over a lot today. We've gone over like door balancing itself and how important springs are, the difference between extension and torsion, common causes of spring failure, warning signs that the homeowners can look for, why we are super against DIY, okay, for your safety, and how often we should get them replaced. Is there any last-minute things that you think we didn't cover today that are kind of important?
I guess just for me personally, I've owned a home for, 3 years now, so newer homeowner, and I'm learning the hard way that if I just don't keep up with stuff, then it costs me a lot more time, energy, and money in the long run.
Yeah.
So I would say don't skip the maintenance, don't skip the tune-ups, have a professional come out, take a look at your system, because if you don't, you could pay even more in the long run.
Thank you. Dude, thank you so much for
coming
on.